You start to go crazy. Matthew Radalj, 5 years in a Chinese prison. My name is Matthew Radalj. I'm an Australian citizen, and for 5 years I was a prisoner in Beijing No. 2 prison. It's a facility that holds international inmates, people from all over the world. What I experienced there, the physical and psychological torture, it's something I need to talk about. I've decided to go public, to share my story, no matter how difficult it is. Give a like and subscribe. Leave a comment. It started in January 2020. I was arrested after a dispute at an electronics market in Beijing. It was over the price of a mobile phone repair. A simple argument that escalated. I maintain my innocence. I was wrongfully convicted after a fight with shopkeepers. To reduce my sentence, I was forced to sign a false confession to robbery. The initial treatment was brutal. Beatings, sleep deprivation, denial of food and water. They broke me down piece by piece. I spent months in a separate detention center. It was a brutal transition phase designed to strip away any sense of self. The cells were overcrowded, shared with a dozen other inmates. We were packed in like sardines, with barely enough room to breathe. The lights were always on, 24 hours a day. There was no escape, no darkness, no rest. It was a constant assault on the senses. Hygiene was appalling. Limited access to showers and toilets, sometimes for months on end. The filth was unbearable. The toilets were disgusting, waste dripping from above. It was a constant reminder of our degradation. We were forced to work in prison factories. It was back-breaking labor with no reward, just endless hours of monotonous work. Malnutrition was rampant. The diet was incredibly poor, barely enough to survive. We were constantly hungry. Meals primarily consisted of cabbage in dirty water and plain bread, what they called mantu. It was tasteless and provided little sustenance. Exercise was limited to half an hour per week, half an hour to stretch our legs, to feel the sun on our faces before being locked away again. The good behavior points system was a manipulative tactic. It was designed to control us, to turn us against each other. Points were earned through studying Communist Party literature, prison work, and snitching on other inmates. It was a system of rewards and punishments. Guards exploited minor infractions to deny sentence reductions. They held our freedom over our heads, using it as a weapon. Infractions included hoarding food, incorrect walking, and even improper sock placement. Anything could be used against us. They would cut time off monthly family phone calls. That connection to the outside world, our lifeline, was constantly threatened. Reduction of other perceived benefits, like extra food or slightly cleaner blanket, they chipped away at our hope. Food deprivation was a common punishment. It was a way to break our spirits, to make us compliant. Meals primarily consisted of cabbage and dirty water and plain bread. It was a constant reminder of our powerlessness. We had the opportunity to supplement our diet with meager rations purchased with family funds, but even that was used against us. I was blocked from extra purchases for refusing to work in the prison factory. They punished me for standing up for myself. We were forced to work on a farm, but never allowed to eat the vegetables we grew. It was a cruel irony. The vegetables we grew were buried at the end of the season. It was a deliberate act of spite, a reminder that we were not worthy. During official visits, they would suddenly provide protein, like a chicken leg. It was all for show, a staged performance for the outside world. African and Pakistani prisoners formed the largest groups. They had their own internal hierarchies and power structures. Inmates from Afghanistan, Britain, the US, Latin America, North Korea, and Taiwan were also held. A diverse group, united by their shared imprisonment. Most were convicted for acting as drug mules. They were often vulnerable and exploited, caught in a web of desperation. Power struggles among inmates over kitchen access and extra food were common. It was a constant battle for survival. There was a brawl between African and Taiwanese groups over control of extra food items. It was a brutal reminder of the desperation that permeated the prison. I spent 194 days in solitary confinement after hitting another prisoner. It was a moment of rage, a breaking point. The lights were turned off, leading to sensory deprivation. It was a complete isolation, a descent into darkness. My food ration was cut in half. I was already malnourished, and now I was starving. There were no reading materials or human interaction, just silence and the gnawing emptiness. The psychological effects were devastating. I started talking to myself, questioning reality. You start to go crazy. Prison officials staged propaganda moments for media and visiting officials. It was a carefully constructed illusion. They set up a fake computer suite for a photo opportunity. It was a Potemkin village designed to deceive the outside world. Prisoners pretended to use computers not connected to the internet. It was a charade, a performance for the cameras. The computers were wrapped up in plastic and never touched again after the photo opportunity. It was a cynical display of manipulation. I secretly kept a journal on pieces of COVID masks. It was a risky act of defiance, a way to preserve my sanity. I wrote tiny sentences with the help of North Korean prisoners. They taught me how to write in a way that was difficult to detect. I documented my experiences and details for other prisoners' families. I wanted to give them hope, to let them know they weren't forgotten. I smuggled the notes out of prison in the lining of my old jacket. It was a nerve-wracking moment, knowing what was at stake. Guards searched my room and questioned me before I left. I thought I was going to be caught, that everything would be lost. I was released on October 5, 2024. It was a moment of disbelief, a feeling of being reborn. I was banned from returning to China for 10 years, a small price to pay for my freedom. I returned to Australia and reunited with my father. It was an emotional reunion, a moment of pure joy. I married my longtime girlfriend. She stood by me through everything, and I am eternally grateful. I'm making candles and other products now. It's a way to keep busy, to focus on something positive. I'm still angry and recovering from my experience. The scars, both physical and emotional, run deep. I'm contacting families of former inmates and lobbying embassies. I'm trying to help those who are still trapped. Helping them has also helped with the transition back to my old life. It gives me a sense of purpose, a reason to keep fighting. I feel a sense of responsibility to those left behind in prison. I can't forget them. I won't forget them. I appreciate the simplest things in life now. A warm shower, a good meal, the company of loved ones. These are things I once took for granted.